If 2020 has shown us anything other than pure garbage, is that if you wait long enough, chances are you'll wind up with a mini version of your favorite gaming mouse. So today we're checking out the the Hati S Stardust, and it might be the miniest mini mouse yet. I struggle to call this a review today because this is a pre-release. This was limited to 100 samples. Chances are you've seen other channels cover this already. I'm pretty late to the table when it comes to this mouse, but what G-Wolves have done here is figured out a way to use us, reviewers, as product testers, and you, the audience, as a focus group. It's brilliant, really, if it does leave me feeling a little cheap and used at the end of the day. If we've learned anything from this business model, it's that they eventually get most, if not all, of the rough spots smoothed out after they've been in market for a while. So historically, the best strategy is to resist the urge to be an early adopter. Nonetheless, I've put this thing through all the same paces I would put any mouse through. We're gonna check it out today and see if it's gonna be a good fit for you. You ready? Let's go! Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching BadSeed Tech, and today we're checking out the Hati S Stardust mouse from G-Sevlow. I don't even know anymore. Currently in pre-order, the G-Wolves Hati S looks like it's gonna run you $62.90 US plus shipping from X-Ray Pad or $84.90 from MAXGAMING. It also looks dead ass like the Final Mouse Phantom, but have fun blowing at least a couple hundred on eBay to score one of those. So G-Wolves isn't exactly known for their originality, but they are known for making some pretty damn good gaming mice. This, of course, is the mini version of the Hati, and I was pretty surprised to see just how mini it really is in comparison to the original. It measures 112 millimeters long, 60.5 millimeters wide at the front flare, 61 at the rear, and about 55 at the grip, but it's still about 39.5 millimeters high and weighs in at just about 51 grams on my scale, putting it as not only one of the smallest of the minis, but also the lightest, even smaller than the Skull Mini Ergo. It's a symmetrical shape that feels most similar in my hand to the Viper Mini, though still not exactly so. If anything, it's a touch narrow for me, even in fingertip, so if you like a lot about the Cooler Master MM710 but it's too wide for you, this is gonna be a good fit. The height runs about neck and neck with the Mira S. Inside the box, we're lacking the usual truckload of included accessories, and instead we get an instruction sheet, an extra cable that sadly is not color matched to the blue accents on the body, and this secret drawstring bag, which features a cleaning brush and like a rose-scented hand wipe maybe that was bone dry. This is flat out easily the weirdest stuff I've ever seen bundled with a gaming mouse. The cable is the usual flexible G-Wolves cable and is removable like we saw on the Skull Mini. It's micro USB. You've often heard me say that G-Wolves makes one of the best stock cables out there. This is no different. Good weave, good flexibility, little lift on the stress relief, and this rose-colored accent in the plug. No complaints here. This runs the 3389 sensor, no real surprises here. The DPI button is on top of the mouse, and the G-Wolves logo visible through the shell doubles as the DPI indicator LED, so you get 400, 800, 16, and 3200 by default. The feet here appear to be PTFE. They are a good thickness. One big glide across the rear, one each on the top corners. They are dimpled, like they're a little low in the middle. I'm not sure how this affects performance, but it didn't cause any issues at all for me. You also have a button down here to change report rate on the fly. Not something I think I would use a lot, but it's nice to know that you don't have to go into software to access it. I don't see driver software available for this anywhere yet, but chances are if it's like all their other software, you'll get DPI adjustments in increments of 50, as well as an adjustment for debounce and liftoff distance. Mouse 1 and 2 switches are Chinese Omron 20mm confirmed. These triggers though, they're not 100%. There's no real side play if you hit them dead center, but if you click closer to the corners, you'll get a little action. Nothing game breaking though. Pre-travel is very good, very minimal. Post-travel, however, is very pronounced, and this was kind of distracting during ADS until I got used to it. Once I got focused up, it wasn't a big deal. And you don't really get that rear trigger raise that you do on some of the cheaper mice. So these aren't all bad, but they're not 100% great. Keep in mind, my sample size is literally the one model that I have here. Side buttons are Huano greens. Again, pre-travel is virtually non-existent. The front button feels really solid, provided you don't land too close to the center of the two buttons. And the rear buttons post-travel is straight mush with a lot of wobble. I do hope to see them tighten this up for the proper retail. I do like the positioning though, and the blue frame visible through the honeycomb sides is legit. The body itself feels particularly sturdy, especially for a weight like this. There's no rattle at all. There's no real side panel flex, very minimal creak, nothing you would experience in-game. Lower panel has some flex as to be expected, and it looks like this is honeycomb as well under the sticker. But as people have been pointing out recently, there's never going to be a situation in gaming ever where you're simultaneously applying pressure to the bottom plate and the top shell of your mouse. It's only something that comes up in reviews, so I will likely exclude exclude that from all future testing and reviews, unless of course the frame is just particularly garbage and I want to illustrate that for you. So obviously this mouse is going to be strictly fingertip for me, and it actually performs really well, even though it clearly is too small for my hand at 20.5 by 10.5 centimeters. The clicks feel really snappy in game. Even the post travel on M2 didn't really bother me once I was able to get focused up. I was able to get some pretty solid results, and I did opt for a bungee. Wireless mice have me totally spoiled. It gets harder and harder to review wired mice. Nonetheless, I got used to the shape very quickly, even though I personally would be more comfortable with something like an MM710 due to the increased width there, or more so like the full-size Hati. Shape-wise, it doesn't really jump out at me in terms of being similar to anything I own. The original Hati was damn near a dead ringer for the G Pro wireless, but this one has such like a smushed dimension front and back that it takes on its own profile. It's like a fat teardrop shape. I hope the retail includes some side grips, as the honeycomb side panels aren't really ever comfortable to me. Coating here will show oil, but you have to be looking for it specifically. It's a solid matte coating, and the paint job is actually really well done. I did notice they hollowed out the front of the body as well. I don't feel like I see that very often. The scroll is pretty standard stuff too. For me, it has more tactility on the down scroll than the up. It's a good height from the trigger body. It's 24 steps. It's a Kale rotary encoder, though I can't make out the number. It's pretty firm on depress too. It's Huano green under there as well. The rubber coating on the wheel has some rough stuff around the edges, but it's all aesthetic. You can't feel any of it during game. This was an interesting review because I really had to look hard for some negatives, the biggest of which being the post travel on the triggers, but again, didn't really affect me at all in game once I got used to it. It didn't really take me long to adjust to it at all. The shape seems really safe. Even though it's on the smallest end of the small mice spectrum, it still seems to offer a lot of grip choices. I think that about wraps it up. It seems to me like G-Wolves has done a really nice job here. Again, not winning any points for originality, but at least the quality and the execution is there, unlike some other mice I've seen recently. The price is obviously higher than an O-, but I feel like the shape is more accessible because this mouse isn't as flat. Given the choice between this and any other mini symmetrical mouse on the market, I would probably only recommend the Viper Mini if you have an issue with honeycomb frames. Otherwise, this would probably get my pick of the mini symmetrical mice. It's not going to spend any time as my personal main, even though I really like the mouse, because small frame mice just really don't work for me, honestly. But if you have a small to medium size hand, particularly if you're on the small side of that spectrum, I could see this being a good fit. The only thing that really keeps it from being an automatic easy recommend for me is that I hope in the final retail they do get that little bit of post travel figured out with the triggers. It's not anything that I would really consider a deal breaker, but when you look at the price point versus something like a Glorious, if they're going to position themselves at a premium price point, then the quality control has to be premium as well to match that. And obviously it's going to be a good choice if you liked the shape of the OG Hati or the G Pro wireless, but you found it to just be a little too large for you. As always, links down in the description for everything we talked about today, and I am working on something really big for you guys. I'll reveal more when we get a little closer to launch, but it should help make your decision-making process a lot easier going forward, regardless of your product category. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.